Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie and I'm the author of the blog CapturingWonderland.com. Well, what am I up to today? I'm still renovating my dining room. It's a long process, but I'm taking you along every step of the journey. I'm hoping to inspire you because I believe a house is not a home until you make it your own. Today, I want to talk about 7 tips to prep for paint like a pro. So if you're wanting to paint a room or even a piece of furniture, before you even pick up a paintbrush, there are a couple of things that you need to do to help prepare the surface for paint so you get that professional finish that you're really dreaming of. And if you're anything like me, painting is kind of a dreaded process. I would rather do just about anything but paint. So when I do have to paint, I'm gonna ensure that I get a beautiful finish every single time so that I don't have to redo all of that work again. When we moved into this house 10 years ago, literally every single room needed to be painted. Well, it's been almost a decade and there are still rooms that I've not even touched. That's how much I procrastinate with painting. I'm currently prepping my dining room for paint. The trim has been primed, but there is quite a bit of prep to do before I am actually going to put on my final coat of paint. You might ask, what should I do to prep for painting? There are 7 basic steps that you should probably follow every single time to properly prepare any surface for paint so that you can get that professional finish that you're dreaming of. Let's get into all of the details. Repair holes in the wall surface. I have drywall. Therefore, to repair any of the holes that are in my walls, and there are quite a few because I like to change up my wall decor from time to time, I prefer to use spackle to fill all of those holes. It is super easy. You can literally just fill in the hole with my finger and then take a putty knife and scrape the excess off. If you have a sizable hole, you may need to use a drywall patch and joint compound. In my post, I link a source for you if you're in that situation to help you with the process. But most holes, divots, or scrapes or gouges can be filled quite easily with spackle. Why do you prefer spackle, you might ask? The reasons I prefer spackle over caulk there are 3 reasons why I prefer to use spackle. Number 1, it is color changing. It's kind of magical in that way. It starts out as bright pink, and when it's dry, it turns white. So you are never left wondering if it's completely ready for paint. You know when it turns white that it is ready for you to put the paint on the surface. Number 2, it is so easy to work with, especially if it is not partially already dry. Some of the video that I took was with my old can of spackle, which had been left open for too long, and therefore it was mostly dry already, so it was much more difficult to work with than it should have been. If it is still bright pink and you have made sure to close the lid properly, or if it's a brand new bottle, it goes on like butter, like literally. And it's not overly messy like caulk is. It's more like a putty, so it sticks in the holes for a better fill and seamless finish. The 3rd reason is if you overfill, you can go back over those spots with a damp rag and wipe off all the excess. Once caulk dries, there is no coming back to wipe it. So now it's time to caulk. I'm using Alex Plus by DAP, all-purpose acrylic latex caulk plus silicone, 40 years. And I've got my handy caulk gun. So I'm just gonna open it, put that in it. And then I'm going to take my utility knife and I'm going to cut a small bit off the end. Very small. You don't want a ton of caulk coming out at once. Tip 2, caulk or touch-up caulk to all of the trim. Now, I prefer to caulk before I paint for a couple of reasons. Obviously, what you see here is all white walls, and a lot of the time I do choose to use white, so it wouldn't really make a difference one way or another if I used caulk and white. But if I decide to paint that room, caulking after the fact with textured walls is pretty messy. It gets stuck in all of the texture, and so it's not a very seamless look. Therefore, since I'm going to be coloring the walls with a dark color, I don't want to come in with white caulk after the fact. I would prefer to do it before I paint. Therefore, I get that really pretty seamless finish and I don't have to worry about it messing up my new paint job. And let me just tell you, a freshly caulked trim looks like $1,000,000. It looks like a professional came in here and did everything, and let me tell you, I am not a professional, but caulk literally covers a multitude of sins. Therefore, it's like my best friend when it comes to prep. You can see the huge difference in this photo of the caulked and not caulked area. It only takes a few extra minutes depending on the size of the room, and when you are done, you will see that it is well worth the extra time and effort. Tip number 3, clean the surface that you're going to be painting very thoroughly. Paint will not adhere well to dirty surfaces, especially if there's any kind of greasy film on it. Definitely if you're painting in a kitchen, you're going to want to clean it extremely thoroughly before you go ahead and put any paint on it. All those places you wouldn't normally think to clean are important when it comes to paint prep. The tops of door frames and window frames often get left out, but you want to make sure to get them completely clean with a damp rag. Also, ceilings, another area that you probably don't think to dust, but if you're coming in to paint the ceiling, you're gonna wanna clean that beforehand because a lot of dust settles and spider webs, things like that on the ceiling that you probably don't even see. What I typically do is I get a bucket of some warm dishwater. I just use a couple of drops of Dawn dish soap in the water, and I come in with a microfiber cloth, maybe a sponge and a magic eraser, and I go to town on the walls. I make sure to wring it out really well because you don't want to use really wet rag. You just want it to be damp, and go through and wipe everything down. Give it a good wipe, and any areas that have stuff stuck on them, whatever that may be, use the back of the sponge gently. And if you have any issues where you have children, not talking about anyone specific, but if you have children that have made some artwork on your walls, magic erasers are literally magic and they might save your life. I couldn't tell you how many times I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to repaint this wall, and then I took a magic eraser, cleaned the wall, and I didn't actually need to paint it. It looked beautiful when I was done. Just a note, when you are cleaning your walls, remember to go gingerly over any spots that you have filled with spackle. You don't want to wipe it off accidentally. So either avoid those spots altogether or just quickly wipe over them gently. Tip number 4, remove light switch and outlet covers. Kind of one of those tasks that's kind of annoying, but it's really important. You don't want to have to go back through and clean them all, and they might get stuck to your wall if you get paint on them. The best advice I could possibly give you for this step is to do what I have learned to do over years of losing screws or having bags of outlet covers randomly that I have no idea where they came from. What I do is I take some masking tape and I literally stick the screws to the masking tape and fold it in half, and then tape it to the outlet or switch plate that it came from. Ta-da! Look at that hideous yellow. I didn't pick it. You can't blame it on me. That way you have everything that you need when you go to reinstall it. I even take a black permanent marker. I can't even believe that I still have those in this house, but I take a black permanent marker and I write what room on the back that it came from. And then when all of those are done, I stick them in a Ziploc bag in the room that they're supposed to be put back into. That way it's completely organized and you don't ever have to wonder where that screw went or why are you missing an outlet cover. Step 5, apply your painter's tape. Now, if you're a newer painter or you aren't as confident in your ability to cut in with a color, especially if it's a dark color, you are going to want to use painter's tape. If you have freshly painted your trim, you're going to want to use the delicate surface tape, which is purple in the Scotch brand, just because it won't take up the paint that you just put on your trim when you're taking it off. That's an added bonus tip there. I'm a little bit more confident in my abilities to cut in properly, so I don't usually worry about painter's tape, but I will when I'm coming in with this dark color. I'm gonna want to tape off all of the areas of my white trim so that I don't mess it up, because I don't wanna have to come back in and touch up. Another option for cutting in, instead of using painter's tape, is to use a cut-in tool. So it's a tool that's specifically made for running alongside trim. So you're not having to use a paintbrush to cut in. Tip 6, cover any furniture or flooring with drop cloths. This is another area where drop cloth really shines, and it's actually its original intended purpose. It is for protecting things from paint splatter. But you can use a polyurethane, which is like a plastic material, which is much cheaper, or you can go ahead and opt to invest in a larger drop cloth and just move it as you go in the room, and that way it is reusable, which I prefer personally because I'm all about investing in good quality equipment so that it can be reused years and years and years down the road. The other option, which I chose this option for a myriad of reasons, is to literally move all of the furniture out of the room that you're working in, because you don't want to actually have them in the way, and this is kind of a small room anyway. So it was easier for me to just push the table and chairs out than it would be for me to work around them. And here's a note, you could even use old sheets if you don't mind them being destroyed. Or you could head down to your local thrift store and buy some of their sheets for that intended purpose. You could use those to cover any furniture or anything that you didn't want paint getting on. And here's a bonus tip. Fitted twin size sheets are the perfect size for actually covering doors. So if you don't want any paint getting on any doors, just go ahead and put a twin size fitted sheet over it and it will protect it from being painted. Tip 7, use quality paint equipment. I wouldn't say you have to buy the most expensive paint equipment, but buying quality, even medium grade, is so much better than buying the cheapest thing you can get in the store. I love Purdy brand brushes. I have several of them and they're just amazing quality brushes. If you have a whole house to paint, it is definitely worth the investment. If you're only painting one room, then I would say maybe to go with a mid-range like the Wooster brushes. I use the little 2-inch cub brush like this. I love this. It is an angled brush and it's perfect for cutting in. And especially when you're painting a furniture piece, having this short little handle allows you to get into little small tight spaces that you normally wouldn't be able to with a regular size paintbrush that comes with a handle about that long. Wooster and Purdy are both made in the USA also, if that matters to you. Why not just buy the cheapest brand to save money right now? It's always tempting to just save money in the moment. You think that you're making a good, wise decision by not spending the additional money that it would be to buy a higher brand, but in the long run, it actually hurts your wallet more than it helps you. Purchasing good, solid tools like these brands ensures that they will last for years if properly cared for. In the blog post, I also do link to an article that will help you learning how to properly care for your painting tools. And that's really a key component in making sure that they last for years. And it will save you a lot of money in the long run. In fact, my dad still has Purdy brushes that he has used my entire life and maybe even before I was born because he has properly taken care of them and they are amazing quality brushes. So in my considered experience, decades of painting, literally, the upfront initial cost for quality is worth it. Two major downfalls that I know of to using cheap tools. Cheap brushes shed bristles while you're painting. So you will be painting a wall and then you will notice that bristles are stuck in the paint. Now, this is frustrating because you're gonna literally have to sit there and try to dig them out of your freshly painted wall, which is time consuming. Or you may miss them and then only notice them when your wall is completely dried. And at that point, you cannot just take them out because they'll literally leave a line in your paint finish. Cheap painting equipment is also hard or nearly impossible to clean so you can reuse it down the road. Ask me how I know this on a personal basis. I purchased a cheap aluminum painter's tray at one point and it was literally impossible to clean. I tried cleaning it in every which way. And unless you're literally going from your paint to cleaning, which is not always possible when you have a bunch of kids running around. Sometimes you get distracted and you have to stop your work and then not come back to it for a little bit. And so paint will partially dry or all the way dry in your painter's tray. So trying to reuse it resulted in paint chipping off onto my roller in my next project, which ended up on my walls. Two great reasons to just go ahead and purchase a couple of quality brushes. I have a whole list of good painting supplies to use, ones that I use myself personally and recommend. I'm gonna go ahead and link a card right here for the video where I talk about that. It also has the post linked that is 10 plus essential tools for the DIYer. Best paint supplies to use to prep for paint like a pro. Here's a couple of my favorites. A 9-inch roller with a 2 to 4 foot extension pole for high ceilings and to save your back. Roller pads, if you have a smooth wall, a flat wall, you're gonna want a smooth surface rolling pad. If you have textured walls, you're going to want to use a roller pad specifically for that. A roller tray and even tray liners if you wanna go that extra step to make sure that cleanup is easy. A 2-inch angled brush, a paint edger tool, a paint cup, painter's tape, and drop cloth, either plastic or fabric. Well guys, thank you so much for watching all the way through if you've made it this far. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with any friends that you think would benefit from this information. Thanks again, bye.